actually, you know, jump the connection off. I mean, but in any event, man, we gonna talk about the other stuff as far as the positives and the negatives and stuff like that. But back to what I was saying, they love to party. I mean, I just can't say that enough. I mean, these individuals, man, just to put things out there in perspective, my mother, and she was a twin, uh, fraternal twin, so she had a brother. She was born first. Her brother, which my uncle, was born, I think like maybe 20 minutes apart or something like that. But anyway, they love to party. So I've been to a lot of parties with my mother. My mother going to some type of party. Um, I primarily don't really go to parties like that on my own, but I have to tell you, I miss the parties, man. My mother is no longer of the world right now, and man, I miss those parties because she loved to go to parties. Not all of the parties I like to go to, but definitely I get my party side from my mother, no doubt. So yeah, they love joining organizations and clubs. I mean, basically, a lot of clubs have parties, organizations have parties, people parties. That's just them, man. They love it. Okay, I can't say it enough. And is very good conversationalists, but will not take your advice. Yeah, they love to talk because you at the party, you networking and talking. But the way they're networking and talking, yeah, they might take you up on your offer because they want to see what kind of parties you have to offer as well. As long as whatever business you're offering and whatever event you're throwing along with the business, yeah, they're gonna network. They're very good at that. Okay, because they at a party and meeting people, greeting people, and they love to conversate. But taking your advice might come with a grain of salt. But they love telling and cracking up on other people's jokes. Okay, love giving jokes, telling jokes and giving jokes. Okay, absolutely love it. Right? Okay, just this is the person that's at the party laughing as well as like entertaining, telling stories. They're very good in the art of entertaining other people and other guests. They also love to throw parties themselves. Okay. Famous deceased Aquarius, Rosa Parks, Jackie Robinson, Sam Cooke, Toni Morrison, Etta James, Langston Hughes, Steve McNair, Trayvon Martin, Gregory Hines, Sherman Hemsley, Hank Aaron, John Belushi, Bob Marley, Chris Farley, Franklin D. Roosevelt, XX Temptation. You know what? I hope I, pronounced it properly, but yeah, I definitely, he's a Aquarius, kind of younger of the deceased, but yes, he was definitely an Aquarius. Famous Aquarius. Top dog is Michael Jordan. Dr. Dre is also Aquarius. This is kind of odd because I thought Dr. Dre was a Gemini, but he's an Aquarius. Michael B. Jordan, The Weeknd. I don't know if you guys like this Super Bowl show, but it was all right, but kind of weird. But hey, I definitely rock with The Weeknd. Jim Brown, Alicia Keys, Oprah Winfrey. I didn't even know she was an Aquarius, but it makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Actually used to watch Oprah with my mother. Ice-T, Kerry Washington, Chris Rock, Tatiana Ali, Brandy Norwood, Bill Russell, Arsenio Hall, Hakeem Olajuwon. Okay, didn't know he was an Aquarius as well, but yeah, These are your famous deceased Aquarius as well as famous Aquarius. Aquarius traits and strengths: independent, highly social, terrible at keeping secrets. Okay. Pretty much you see that water in the back right here, the symbol of the water, we're carrying the water. That's how much pretty much they can hold water. Um, the whole probably term holding water is Aquarius. Okay. They'll even ask you questions because their whole thing is they're trying to get a secret from you so they could tell other people so they could crack up and tell a new joke or really negatively just to kind of like make fun of you. They love making fun of your weaknesses or and things that you even like to do that's weird. They love stuff like that. Like so if you tell them something, you're telling them because you want everybody else to know. Like that's the reason why you're telling them something. Responsible, very responsible. Will be very, very responsible because they care about their image. They care a lot about like how people look at them for the most part, in general. So they're very responsible about certain aspects when it comes to their image, their brand or whatever they do for a living. They're very responsible as far as like even trying to kind of stay away from certain things and just negative things that will mess up their brand or their actual image. So they're very responsible in that regard, as well as whatever they have to do for a living. They're responsible to try to do the best that they possibly can. And then also a lot of times they try to do even more because their thing is they're trying to embarrass you. Okay. They want to embarrass you and actually be the top dog and, just basically go above and beyond. Okay. You gotta look at it like these people, a lot of times they're probably the most dominant of all the air signs. I'm not sure as far as where they rank as far as things, but I think Aquarius is the dominant of the air signs. So yeah, they're gonna try to go above and beyond whatever else you're doing. Very, very competitive in that regard. Highly disciplined. Okay. Will Because the ultimate goal is embarrassment. So they're going to be highly disciplined in trying to be the best because at the party, they want to be the person that walks in the room and everybody starts to, basically high five and pat them on the back. So their whole thing is that they're not driven by like other people or, other zodiacs, such as like they're disciplined so they can, you know, get some type of like accolade or riches and stuff like that. They don't really operate. Their currency is social currency a lot of times. Now, a lot of times that equates into other things. And like I said, I don't speak in absolutism. They actually not just, just look at it like they're not necessarily, like I said, dumb. They can understand, okay, well, this is, they can understand zodiacs, they can understand their weaknesses and flaws and apply certain things to take that social currency and make money off of it. They're not all just, work off of social currency, but the highly disciplined nature always, for the most part, except, it doesn't always turn into capital, but most times that turns into capital, and as long as and as well as the strong passion, good working, abilities. They basically, those, emotional, just being a hard worker and everything like that, that leads into a lot of times, being the best at their job, and being someone that you could rely on. Then it goes into the other sentence with or words as far as they can keep a job for a lifetime. Okay. They're very well known for basically working hard. So a lot of times, if they like their job, because a lot of times they go to their job to actually, a lot of times Aquarius looks at their job as a party as well. I'm playing some music in the background. A lot of times you go to somebody's office, if they, on Aquarius, they're probably listening to music. They make their job a party. They'll sneak out and go talk to some colleagues, and have some coffee and talk about some type of like project ongoing. But they're not just talking about the project. They're getting information that's gonna help them, and then also they're trying to be social because that's what they like to do. And then somebody else that probably has not talked to somebody in weeks and months, they have actually had this coworker that they know come talk to them. But usually they talk to people that they regularly talk to. They don't necessarily all the time talk to just random people, but a lot of times they do. But they'll just basically try to make their job a party, which is pretty good if you think about it. That's not really that bad, because a lot of times jobs are like real boring and stale. You got somebody that knows how to turn their job into a somewhat of a party environment. That's pretty cool. They're very good at controlling their emotions. I think that's probably something that is of kind of like a strength that is like really, really good that they have. They could be very emotionally cold, ice cold. Okay. It's a gift, and it's also it's like something that's good, and then it's also a dark side. It's bad to that. They could like you go and insult them and something like that. They could just be cold about it, but then they could turn off and just hit you in the face too. I mean, they could appear like they just took the insult, and then all of a sudden like a ice storm of rage, they will just react to you. Like, they could be very, very cold, take a lot of argumentative, negative insults, and they could even take public beefs and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, that's what they wanted. They wanted you to bring their name up. They wanted you to actually talk about them. You know what I'm saying? That is one of the reasons why they might do something a certain type of way, because they want to get that reaction so they can show you how cold they are. But anyway, that was a picture of my mother, my uncle. But back to the other slide. The weaknesses are, they could be emotionless. If you appear ice cold, that's like emotionless. That's like showing hardly any emotion, which is good. It's a good thing to have. It's also a weakness where it's like you could just be like hurting people and shit like that, and then you don't have any emotions. Like, you like a freaking skeleton, because it's like where you're ice cold, and it's like it's kind of can go against you in a way. You could lose a relationship, you could lose a friend. It's a gift and a curse, like I said. They could be argumentative, because if things don't go their way, or things is a problem, they can come off to you, and They might even have pent up frustrations, and they're gonna argue to get that out. They might not necessarily, um they're not a robot. They're ice cold, but they're not a robot. They got to get that tension out. So they might pick an argument with you or do something to get a reaction from you. You know, they are very know-it-all, because a lot of times people that are extroverts and people, social people, they pretty much, they'll just kind of come off as if they kind of know mostly what you're talking about already, or they might just like hear everything you say, and then in private they'll be like, basically, you don't know what you're talking about, type of thing. They do have an air of highly level arrogance, okay, as well. Very rageful as well. You don't even want to know what I had to deal with as far as rage when it comes to primarily my uncle, but also my mother as well. The rage that they could exhibit is something of, you know, just a bully, or someone that's just like just somebody that just you don't want to deal with. Okay. um you would need to get away from them for a little bit. But also they could be condescending. Okay, very condescending. Overly optimistic. A lot of times they one of the weaknesses is that they could be overly optimistic about something, such as like they'll do something and tell people that they're going to do something, and then it doesn't happen, and then it's kind of embarrassing a little bit, but it's because they was basing it off of just something their friend told them, or maybe even something that they thought was going to be a certain way because they met somebody at a party, and there was a realtor and they told them some bill of dreams. A lot of thoughts are coming to me because I know a lot about Aquarius. Some of the other zodiacs you can kind of tell in my delivery, kind of if I've been researching or I just kind of know more than even to put in words. Well, you can obviously tell in this delivery that I know quite a bit about Aquarius. Okay. And the thing is that it's not just, my, mother and my uncle. It's quite a few people in my family that I, have kind of very similar characteristics, where a lot of times they get even, I'll just add that they tend to be duped out by a lot of people, because they could be so generous sometimes to people that they don't know, because they're like social and they'll meet somebody that they really like at a party or event or at their job, whatever the case may be. And then that goes into a level of where they just get too delusional about what actually will happen, what actually the outcome will be on what the person is selling them or offering them. And they'll get taken advantage of. Like I remember one time my mother had something happen with her car, and her car was towed to like some like abandoned lot, some like makeshift lot. And I'm like, Mom, you totally, this guy's duping you. You can't see that. And I just basically just like I saw he was trying to like basically kind of gangster the situation. I called the cops. They released the car because the guy basically, he was hustling. You got guys that just, they basically follow ambulance calls and police calls, and they'll come on the scene, and they're not necessarily authorized to tow a car, but they're able to kind of finesse their way into certain situations. But I knew something was fishy was going on, and turn around, basically come to find out basically that out of that situation, they were using her debit card that was in the car. So it was a total, like, basically scam. And she got like kind of duped into it, because a lot of times Aquarius are very friendly and open to other people. Even the fact that that situation happened, that was a story that she could tell to someone else. Okay. And it goes into love for drama. They absolutely love drama. They don't like they don't like a boring existence. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I can live a very boring life for a while. Then it'll take me maybe a couple days or a week to be like, I'm really, really bored. But in Aquarius, they can take probably a few hours or a half a day of it being boredom until they just totally go ballistic. Like, I mean, just try to just jump through the computer to get somebody to come visit them or something like that. Like, that's how Aquarius are. Like, especially like female Aquarius. And they also, like I say, going back to drama in their relationships. This is the woman that would most likely, she would like purposely get in a car accident or something, or she would like do something where she would drive her car a certain way so it'll burn out, because she has some type of like yearning to go like visit a mechanic that she really liked, that she might have either liked, had a love interest about it, or maybe she heard about one of her friends from the party talk about this guy, and he might have been a certain level of let's just say good in the bedroom or whatever. They'll go see this individual based off of that, like. And then if the situation even goes to a point where it goes negative, they'll have enough drama to talk about with their other girlfriends and other, primarily girlfriends, for 2 years, to give them the amount of pleasure and entertainment and excitement, because they also love talking on the phone. Absolutely love talking on the phone and gossiping. I mean, nowadays it's the phone, and then it's also the internet. It's whatever, YouTube, blogs. They love talking and discussing about certain things. Like, this is the person on the comment section, you know, talking about certain situations and stuff. Whatever they could do to get off of their story of what happened or what's currently happening to them. I mean, because they'll also, you got to watch, they'll go through stuff and they're really legit going through stuff, but they're, when you ask them questions, it's like, why are you, you know, why do you live where you live? Why are you doing what you're doing? And it's like, then you don't really want to, they don't really want to respond, but they will. But I mean, it's based off of their love for just constant drama and just, wanting to be in the center of just, a lot of different kind of like dramatic situations. Like they'll live in a sketchy part of the neighborhood and they don't necessarily have to live there. They have enough money to live somewhere else, but they love that sketchy part of the neighborhood because that's where a lot of drama is. Okay. You know, they'll go, like I said before, they'll go to where the dragons are flying, because that's where the excitement is. You know what I'm saying? So they love bad associations, okay, as well. That's like a weakness. So like they'll get involved with a cult, legit get involved with the cult, and then things go to a point where they, try to break off or whatever. They'll get involved with a gang or some type of like renegade faction or club or whatever. and they'll get themselves and separate themselves from it, and then have enough to talk about for a lifetime to someone else. And then, when it gets to the point where they're asking them questions and stuff like that, they'll, explain it, but they'll just, like I said, they will get involved with bad associations, get involved with like boyfriends and relationships with, men that, basically are bad boys or have a flair to them. And basically, it's at the very least, it's something that they'll have something to talk about. They'll have something to tell a story about, write a book about. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're a lot of times attracted to bad associations. Can be very vengeful. So, like, going back to the ice cold stuff, so they'll be ice cold to you and emotionless and that, like, not give you a response, right? But what they'll do is they'll just hold it. They'll stock that coldness, and when they thaw out a little bit, they're gonna do something like, you know, write up a report for you and send it to a manager, to HR, like weeks after the argument happened. And then next thing you know, you getting a pink slip, or you getting your manager come in and ask you what happened, because you thought they just, because they were acting emotionless, that they forgot about it. No, they didn't forget anything. They just basically, like, um iced it away and put it in a freezer, and then they just waited to thaw out till you forgot about it. And then they just did something to where they just, you know, put it right back to you, like sticked it to you. I mean, basically what I'm talking about is like someone that has an ice pick. They have a freaking, what I mean by ice pick is like, that's an old caveman weapon where it was just literally ice or something sharp and it's ice. And it just basically waited till something gets, forms an ice pick to use it, and then just jab you with it after you've already, done something to them, to initiate a response. But they didn't respond. It's just because they're waiting, you know. Another one of their weaknesses is that they get burned out from working. They burn out a lot of times from working because they be working so much. They like to go, hang out with their friends at the job, talk, eat at the job, order food, or have pizza parties, whatever type of party at the job, and just laugh it up and talk about other coworkers and stuff like that, and past coworkers that got fired. These are even the people that gotten people fired. They get a joy out of getting people fired at a job, getting people, kicked out of an organization, whatever, because they're ice cold. So if you came at them on some stuff, they didn't, like I said, they didn't forget about it. They just stored it away, and then boom, they know exactly what happened. And basically, you can't say that you didn't do that, and you just thought that this person was just like, just somebody that you could like pick on or whatever, or even you thought that they were not gonna make a big deal out of it because their reaction, they didn't really have one. Well, they did have one. You just thought they didn't. You didn't know what you were dealing with, because you just don't think that zodiacs are anything worth any value. With, basically they've been studying that for thousands, tens of thousands of years. I mean, it's nothing new. But yeah, you've underestimated them, and then next thing you know, you're out of a club, organization, job, contract, because you dealt with an Aquarius and you underestimated them. But yeah, from doing all of that, keeping up with all of that excitement, they get a lot of time burned out from work. Okay. They get burned out from all of the stress with kind of even the blowback of dealing with all of these enemies that they have, even. You know, they form a lot of enemies because a lot of people that don't like them just kind of form up like Voltron and come against them, because it's kind of like coming against the in the Game of Thrones, the frozen dead army. Like it's like all of these people that you done took that, you know, freaking livelihood from them because, you know, they just did something wrong to you, but you know, filed a note and a grievance with HR, but you knew HR takes a while to respond. So this person already went home, had, you know, relations with his wife and side piece, and went out, have a good time. And it took like 2 weeks, and then they totally forgot. They probably even saw you at work and apologized. And then by the time they got to their desk, they got a little letter from HR or whatever about some type of grievance that they need to sign. And that was your doing, you know, which, you know, you could have just left it alone, but you didn't, you know. But you, not saying that you should have or shouldn't, but they just deal with things a different way. And it's like basically, you know, it goes back to trying to keep up with all of that work, and then you know, trying to pay bills and stuff like that too, because a lot of Aquarius, they have a lot of financial problems because they're not necessarily motivated by trying to save and stuff like that if they're not like wealthy and rich. A lot of their currency is their friends, you know, and their family, and their associations and clubs and groups and stuff like that. That's their currency, you know. I have to say, when my mother's funeral, it was so many people. It was like I couldn't believe that many people would come to somebody's funeral. It was like, because she had all of these people that she helped out, and she done went to their party, she done donated to their group or cause or helped out, and you know, because they're basically a lot of times noted as humanitarians. Okay, they'll give you help, you know what I'm saying, but you're not necessarily, you know, people have flaws and stuff like that, but yeah, they do help a lot of people. They like doing that, and that's just how they roll. Their currency a lot of times, I mean, they love money, but and definitely respect it, but a lot of their currency is how you look at them, you know. And how you look at them is basically someone that is like kind of like an angel, you know, a guardian angel. Like you help them and stuff like that. And yeah, man, they get burned out from all of that, you know. So common problems, like I said, burnout, fatigued, that's you know, associated with that, high blood pressure, insomnia. Okay, because a lot of times might be problem sleeping, you know, because you know, you get on a cycle, a daily cycle. They don't necessarily do well with the daily cycle stuff, you know. You know, Capricorns tend to be very good with the, you know, work cycle or business cycle. Aquarius ain't necessarily you know, good with that. Sometimes they have a insomnia, they just have to call off at work. But even when they call off at work, you know, they're not at home just, you know, they're gonna get their rest, but then they're gonna wake up and they're gonna make a phone call or two to check up on somebody at the office or wherever they work or whatever, you know. But yeah, they do have insomnia from time to time. Diabetes is another thing, because here's the thing, they're going to all of these parties. They got, you know, this is a person with plates of food in their refrigerator because they done went to about 15 parties within 1 month. You know, someone that's an introvert like me, 15 parties is just like, that's probably the amount of parties that I would go to in a 4-year period. I mean, the Aquarius goes to parties in 1 month, and then they love to cook. They love food. Primarily the female Aquarius. They love food, man. They like showing pictures of food on the internet. Um, they love to cook. They they even in a lot of cases, um, they'll just go visit a lot of restaurants. My mother used to visit a lot of restaurants. We would always, be eating like different types of places and stuff like that that I don't necessarily even eat myself. Like I love restaurants and I don't even eat restaurant food like that. Well, like when I was eating, like I don't eat like that. Like, okay, pizza on Friday, Wendy's on Monday. I mean, like Nikki's gyros on Saturday. I mean, it was just like because they literally would go get the food, and then when they get home, they gonna call a friend and tell them where we went to eat, and have like a 30-minute, 2-hour conversation about that. I mean, so yeah, diabetes definitely is something with that. And STDs, parties and people equals sex. I mean, a lot of the people have issues as far as, meeting and greeting and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, typically introverts have problems with that, but when I'll say that meeting and greeting is definitely a problem now because of the virus. But I'll tell you this: freaking virus ain't stopping no Aquarius. I promise you that. Okay, they gonna work around the system. Okay, but with going to social parties and events and meeting a lot of people, um, if you could get, you get out there and catch some stuff because it just goes with the territory. A lot of meeting and greeting people and developing a reputation. uh, you could get vulnerable for catching STDs. Aquarius compatibility: Leo, Sagittarius, and also Gemini. Recommended careers: manager, teacher, entertainer, military. And when I say military, it could be officer or enlisted because they're very good workers and they tend to like work a long time and keep the same job. So this is a person that go from E1 to E10 in like 8 years because they just worked so long, and just kept the same job and went to all of the parties and, you know, did, completed a bunch of tours and stuff like that. So, social worker is probably one of the things that a lot of people wouldn't understand about Aquarius. They're very good at being social workers. That's probably you take everything else out the way, they're very good at being a social worker. Okay. That's probably one of their, if I had to say, I would put a star by social worker because that's really what they do really well. That's their superpower because they help a lot of people, but then they get burned out by it real quick. And they're very good at helping out people. Um, and then it's so many, but a lot of times the reason why they get burned out quickly being a social worker is because there's so many problems in society that it's too many people to talk to. It's not enough people for them to vent and outlet all of this. A lot of times when you help people, a lot of their problems, the people that you're helping, it literally kind of rubs off on you the wrong way. It literally kind of consumes you and sucks you from a lot of your energy and stuff like that. And that's what they do extremely well though. But also athlete, very 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 good athletes. I mean, obviously, Michael Jordan is Aquarius. I've known that for years, and basically, man, I mean, you know, All you gotta do is watch some highlight videos. Okay, you ain't even got to do that. You already know, you know. So this is like I said, this is my mother to the left, and this is my uncle. You know, they were twins. I mean, these two people, man. I had some of the best parties, man. I my music taste is primarily because of these two people. Primarily my mother, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I definitely I got friends that's Aquarius, and I mean, you know, when I'm around them, it's a party, man. So, yep, that's all I have, and you know, you guys have a good one. I don't know who's still watching, who's there. If you're Aquarius, I will, you know, I'll put the link out there if Brave Soul wants to hop on and talk. I mean, I don't know who this is. Uh, I got a little bit of time. I do have to wrap things up a little bit. I just wanted to just get this situation off. But if you're there, you know, definitely I'll give you a little time. I'll be right back. Pour me some tea. All right. So they left. Uh okay, so the next month, let's see what we have next month um for the zodiac signs. Let's look and see. Um I believe, if I'm not correct, it's Aries, which my father was Aries, but I'm not sure. Let me look and see what's up on the next month. So let's see here. No, Pisces. Pisces is up next. Pisces up next. So I'm like, you know, I'm not a professional zodiac astrologist or anything like that. I know quite a bit, but you know, it's some signs that this is also an educational lesson um, as well for me. You know, it's definitely an educational lesson. So yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna get up off of here, and I hope you have yourself a great evening. This has been a very interesting weekend. I survived it. So I'm ready to start the next week. It seems like the retrograde is kind of fading. I noticed it's kind of fading a little bit. It feels like it's fading, and I think that was the reason why it's extremely cold. So you know, basically just bear it out. The craziness kind of calm down, maybe possibly, because you know, I can kind of like sense a little bit that the retrograde is kind of, I guess, stabilizing, you know. So anyway, I'm gonna hop up off of here. Have a great one.